It's Wednesday night, and we're live from Oakdale, Washington, in the Educated Touch studio. Welcome to Ethics Outside the Box, with your host, Nathan Nordstrom. Special guests include...
Adam Parrott.
Yeah!
Here he is, Nathan Nordstrom.
Oh, yes. How are we doing today? Thank you for joining Adam and I for this wonderful adventure. It is good to have you with us. We are having a little bit of fun today because we're going to do just a drop back before we drop forward, because I always like good stories, and Adam had a wonderful experience that we were talking about safeguarding documentation. But before we go into all that fun, this is Adam Parrott. He's one of my friends, colleagues, someone. Gosh, Adam, what year did you graduate from massage school?
2006.
So 2005. So we're going on 18 or 13 years. Wow.
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah. I like how the picture you have of me at the beginning is from like a decade ago.
Well, yeah, that's also when we were working heavier on the book that we have put off onto the side significantly. But all that being said, let's do a quick recap here on how to get to the subjects that we are talking about today. That button. We are talking ethics and the joys of ethics, and this is the National Certification Board of Therapeutic Massage and Body Workers website. As of right now, I hear there's an update coming, thank goodness. But if you scroll down to the bottom to the About section, you're actually going to see information about NCV, including volunteers, bylaws, blah, 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 NCV FAQs, and we are still on the Code of Ethics for a few more weeks. So if you hit that Code of Ethics button, that's going to take you to their NCV Code of Ethics page, and you will see all 13 topics that we've gone through, or 12 topics that we've gone through so far. And today's topic that we're going to get to is number 13. Exercise the right to refuse to treat any person or part of the body for just an reasonable cause. So I've got some stories there. We'll get to that, but Adam and I were talking about number 9, safeguarding the confidentiality of the client's identity and information in all conversations, advertisements, and any and all other matters, unless disclosure of identifiable information is requested by the client in writing, is medically necessary, or is required by law. Adam, so what was the fun thing that you experienced here with that?
Well, right now we're kind of culturally we're still in an evolution of the industry, and I just currently started working out of a new place. I'm a subcontractor, and it's as a private practice, but it's working out of a spa.
Okay.
And great people and everything like that, but they haven't really pushed massage that much there, especially massage on a clinical level. And so one of the discussions I had to have about safeguarding was they do everything on a big paper book, their appointments. And so everything, the scheduling for the salon, for the pedicures, manicures, and massage is all done in that. And they write down all the clients' names and their phone numbers on this book, and then leave the book open on the front desk where anyone can see it. And this is just how they've done it for forever. And none of the other massage therapists have really thought anything of it. And so today they asked me why I wasn't writing down phone numbers on there. And I said, I understand this is the way that the salon has done it. However, according to client confidentiality and information, this is not a secure document, and we leave it on the front where anyone could walk in. And so we had to talk about that, and I'm helping them figure out a new solution. but they didn't even notice. They didn't even think anything of it because right now in the industry, we're still kind of caught between massage culturally being perceived as a service industry, but legally we're moving more and more into the healthcare industry. And the laws that now govern us and our licenses don't match what a service industry is used to. And so coming into this, new work environment and trying to bring them up to code has been a really interesting evolution for me because they just don't even understand why. It's just like, oh, we just do that so we can contact them, And so if you're not here, we need to have a way of getting a hold of your clients. And I said, that's identifying information about a client. You have the name and their phone number there. Something we can't have. And but it's interesting how many places don't recognize that is an actual issue for most licenses in most states, here in the state of Washington, for sure. So yeah, it's just an interesting thing that I have to be aware of. And just the fact that they had no idea, absolutely no idea.
Well, and I love the argument that I hear several times about HIPAA, because that's where a lot of these laws kind of categorize. And a lot of times it's the people who are trying to avoid the law. They're trying to get away from it. They're trying to get out of the need of having to do it. And so when they use those excuses, a lot of times the excuse is, well, we don't do electronic billing. We're not doing anything electronic, so we shouldn't be required to follow.
Right.
Well, but that's not all of HIPAA, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. The accountability of documentations is the more important piece than just kind of, okay, yeah, I'm kind of doing this HIPAA thing, and it's all right, it's good, we're doing fine. Well, you're not really doing fine if you're not safeguarding the documentation. And what is the statement? Ignorance is bliss. Not true. Just because you haven't thought about how a person could steal your information doesn't mean you're not responsible for it or you're happier therefore, because if it does happen, you now have all the responsibility that goes along with that. That's a challenge.
And not even from just a legal standpoint, but from an ethical standpoint, the more that we want to be taken, seriously in the healthcare world, the more we have to hold ourselves to the same standards of. And so even if the law isn't there yet, ethically, where do we want the profession to go?
Yep.
And if we want to go in a certain direction, we have to start holding ourselves to that standard until that standard becomes the norm.
Yes, that is if we're not going to hold the standard, no one's going to hold us to it.
Exactly. Well, and that's what's going on right now in the massage industry that I see a lot. Is this idea of it's a service industry, so it can be treated as a service industry, and there's not a standard of profession. And here in Washington, we have therapists on our license, licensed massage therapist, and that's a license from the Department of Health. So that's not a service industry license there. That's something that we need to hold ourselves accountable to, ethically, if not yet legally.
And it's not just the state of Washington. A lot of states, several states are putting massage therapists under the Department of Licensing or Department of Human Services or Department of different directions that are medically focused. There are a few that are more into the service industry, plumbers, pipe fitters, and anything else. But that doesn't mean that you're only held to that basic standard. It means that you have a standard holding that license. And if you look at the Code of Ethics, Code of Conduct of your professional association, as well as the expectation from your state licensing board, it's definitely different than what the plumbing board says about their services. There really isn't anything like us as massage therapists.
We're in a state of evolution.
Yeah, even if we are categorically similar to other industries, we're not the same.
Yeah.
So that also kind of wraps right into number 13, because our expectation is that as a massage therapist, you can assess your client for appropriate condition for treatment. And so, are there any specific assessments that you do, Adam, before a client comes in or when a client comes in that you assess to make sure that you can work on them or treat them today?
Well, I mean, if I'm looking at if I can or should be working on a client, the first thing that you look at is obviously a good intake. Both verbal and written. See what are your pre-existing conditions, what are your current pains, and if any of those raise a red flag to me, then I can explain that to the client. Like, this might not be a good thing to do right now because X, Y, Z.
I love the red
But I mean,
flag of them not being consistent. The red flag of they're
no.
telling you one thing and the documentation is saying something else.
Yes,
That's my
exactly.
biggest red flag.
If I need to have clarification on something, or if they don't really know what's going on, I mean, there's a lot of things that a proper intake can do, and it's something that's not done thoroughly enough in a lot of places that I've been to. But yeah, a proper intake and verbal intake, I think, is so much more important than written intake. I mean, written intake you got to have, but you can't just be like, hey, I'm your therapist, go hop on the table. I normally, especially the first time that I have a client, I'll take them and I'll sit them down and sit and talk with them for 5-10 minutes about what's going on in their life, what pains they're having, what activities they'd like to see a difference in, if they're having sleep issues, if they're on meds, if they're any of that stuff, getting it from them straight. Because a lot of times people will fill out, again, it's that cultural perception, they're going to get a massage. Why do they have to fill this out? So they don't write everything down. They just, sign it and go and say, okay, I filled out your paperwork, give me a massage. And once you sit them down and you can start actually, verbally vetting out what's going on with them, that's when you'll start to find red flags or things that, you need to have caution around. But normally a lot of that won't be on the written intake because people just don't think it's relevant to massage.
So I think there's something interesting when someone decides, okay, they need to go in for like a colonoscopy. First of all, they're going to be asked similar health questions, probably a lot more focused relating to the digestion system and the colon. But they're going to get that same generalized screening concept. And when they are answering those, they look at that different than they do when they come in for a massage. When
Exactly.
We're looking at the soft tissue, everything that gets you moving physically, and the skin, to me, that's similar in importance to your colon. It's a different organ and a different structure, but it's the same tissue and the need to really kind of engage with a person to make sure that you're safe for them and they're safe for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
I just recently got a email regarding a client who came in and was bragging about being high as a kite. And the massage therapist felt very uncomfortable with this experience. And so they had come in a couple of times and they finally said, we don't feel like we can give you the best service when you're in a mind-altered condition. And that was a standard that they decided that they are going to keep and hold to. And eventually, as we get through more of this year, we'll talk about the code of conduct for NCB and being on alcohol and drugs and kind of that challenge. Any thoughts from you on mind-altered medications and the safety to practice?
Well, you get it a lot when someone comes in and you make a comment like that, like, oh, I'm so high or I'm stoned. And they think that they're going along with the theme of the day because, oh, it just helps relax me. Oh, this is going to be so much better because I'm relaxed. And, yes, a massage should be relaxing. Yes, a massage should be, well, unless you're on Nathan's table, it should be a feel-good kind of experience. But when somebody alters their perception of their own body, their own pain, their own movement, now you can't get proper feedback from them while they're on the table. And again, feedback is so important. Somebody when they are tipsy or drunk will not really know if you're moving their joint too much, and then you could cause damage. Or they might be moving around on the table a lot because they're, inebriated. When somebody is high, I haven't had that experience a lot here, more like people smoking before they come in, because in Washington it is legal. And in those instances, I normally just kind of gauge it. I have not turned anyone away for them being high when they come in to be on my table. Because, again, it's just one of those things of, I normally say, next time you come in, I'd like it if you did not partake in that before you come here. And then I explain to them why. But especially in Washington now, because it's legal, it's one of those things where if you tell them, sorry, you've been smoking, I won't work on you, they just don't even comprehend that. They don't even know that that was an issue. They were just, it's like somebody smoking a cigarette. They were just smoking on their lunch break, and now they, come and get their massage. It's just something people do recreationally. So first step is, the first time, is making them aware. Here are my expectations for your sessions. Here's why. If somebody were to come back and is not respecting those expectations, that's when I might start looking at refusing the service. But the first time that someone comes in, if they're just not educated on why it can cause an issue with massage, step number one, educate your client. Educate them on why it'll be easier and better for you and better for them to have a set situation.
So I kind of go a little different on this, just because we're different people and different practices, and it's, for me, there's more than two sides to every story. The first one is, depending on your state and the legality there, if someone comes in and they say, oh, well, I have my prescription for medical marijuana, and so I'm using it for whatever. I'm using it for pain. I'm using it for sleep. I'm using it for my glaucoma, whatever it is that they're using it for. My first concept to draw back to is painkillers. If someone comes in and they've just downed a handful of painkillers, that's as much a mind-altering medication and a disconnect from mind to body as marijuana can be, as any other medicinal aspect of what someone would be taking. So being conscious to say, wait a second, my client has just taken high doses of fill-in-the-blank medication. How am I going to change my treatment plan to make sure that they are safe? Because you may not work as deep. You may change your technique. Yep. You may change the parts of the body that you're focused on. You may change many aspects of what you're planning on doing or what you're planning on saying. So that's one step in one direction. Now, on the other side of that, I am very aware of the number of male massage therapists who get sued because of an expectation that the male massage therapist may have touched them wrong or may have made someone feel uncomfortable. And I know massage therapists who have had claims put against them because their client was tipsy, was asleep during the session, wasn't consciously aware when the massage therapist was working on them, and their perception was that the person touched them in a certain way.
Something happened. Yeah.
Something happened. And if I can separate myself from the likelihood of someone accusing me of inappropriateness, I am all about it. And so I've had clients who come in and it's the ladies' night at the spa, and so they have 4 or 5 ladies and they've downed a couple of bottles of wine, and they're all very happy and very excited. However, if I did a standard communication test with them and they couldn't give me a straight answer on the intake interview, then I'm going to have a hard time believing that during their session, they're going to be able to connect and consciously be aware of that I'm being safe, and that their cues, their nonverbal cues are going to be able to be picked up on, so that they know that I'm being appropriate, connecting, only touching areas that I'm supposed to, that there's not going to be any communication boundaries between safe, productive, and professional standards. Those are the 2 pieces for me that I say, you know what, any reason for mind-altering substances, I have to make sure they're safe, and I have to make sure that I'm safe.
And that's a wonderful point to bring up, is our own safety. I think you and I encounter that more as male massage therapists. We're definitely on that side. There have been instances before where, I've been working on a female and everything's absolutely fine. They like their session, they leave. And then I hear later that they were uncomfortable because they had been a female preferred client, and the spa had put them with me and just kind of sprung that on them. And nothing unprofessional was done during the session, but because they went into the massage acutely aware that I was male and not female, they were uncomfortable the entire time. And you add alcohol to that, or you add mind-altering substances to that, and in this day and age, that can easily be perceived as I did something unprofessional. That's something that we have to be aware of.
Yeah.
Hugely aware of. And it doesn't matter how good our intentions are or how good they feel afterwards. If somebody feels that you did something inappropriate, your professional license will be questioned. You can be as ethical and as professional as you want. As soon as someone perceives that you have not been, that's all that matters. Now you have to combat your character, and it's he said, she said. And our society's tendency is to always side with the quote-unquote victim. And frankly, that's the way it should be, because no one should ever feel uncomfortable on a table, and no one should ever feel like they're being taken advantage of or anything like that. And those people are out there. There is still so much illegitimate, unprofessional massage in this country that is a very real concern. So how do you distinguish yourself from that? Like Nathan just said, any situation that can increase that potential, stay out of. That's to protect yourself.
And I think I love your example where you have a receptionist who booked a female-only client with a male therapist. That right there is another example where you're being put into an uncomfortable situation because your client is uncomfortable. If you know it or not during the session, you have to respond. I know I had David Otto on a couple of days ago, and David was talking about a case where he went and introduced himself to his client, and his client said, "Oh, I need to go to the bathroom," and she went to the bathroom and never came back. Because who knows why, but he assumes that it was something about that he was a guy. Mm-hmm. And I would rather have a person do that than spend an hour feeling uncomfortable on my table.
Absolutely.
That's a horrible thing to do and a horrible thing to put out there, but it is so much more safe for both parties than to have someone pay for an hour of torture.
If somebody's coming in to massage and they have any sexual perception of human touch, they're bringing that into the session. It does not matter how ethical you are as a therapist. If they have a sexual preconception, then they're going to bring that in. And so if they think that a man touching them is going to be sexual at all, it does not matter how ethical your touch is sexual to that client. So keeping yourself out of those situations is very, very important. You just have to be aware. You have to be aware of your client. And again, had I been able to do an actual long verbal intake with that client, most of that, it would not have even been an issue. So verbal intake is so important.
So we've gone very much onto the medication, the sexual boundaries, the concerns there for denying a client. But really, there's a whole other side to this as well, and that is the importance of good assessment of physical condition and making sure that you are not injuring a client. I like the statement towards the end of that, and it says, exercise the right to refuse to treat any person or part of the body for just and reasonable causes. So any part of the body that has a reasonable cause for you not to work on it. You know, I love my father. If my dad's watching sometime, I'm sorry, I'm telling on you. I was in massage school and he was running a courier service, and he called me up and said, "Hey Nathan, would you come work on me?" "Sure, Dad, I'm in massage school. I'd love to come do some homework on you and practice." And I started working on him, and you know, things just weren't right. Things were sore that weren't supposed to be sore. And halfway through the session, he told me he was in a car accident that day. And I said, "Dad, I mean, he's a chiropractor by trade." And so I'm like, you know what just happened? Why would you put me into that situation and not inform me ahead of time? He said, "No, because you wouldn't have worked on me."
He knows you too well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And he's right. I wouldn't have, but I wouldn't have for just cause. For reasonable statements. And truth be said, the next day, he hurt worse. And he didn't complain one bit because he knew why he hurt worse.
What are they teaching in schools right now? Are they teaching 2 weeks from acute injury?
Yes, depending on the intensity of the trauma.
Okay.
2 weeks from injury, with doctor's recommendation is the biggest piece, is what they've got out there. So, I mean, really connecting with a person, and I believe that research still needs to be done out there about how soon after a trauma and what treatment types a massage therapist should be able to do after trauma. I mean, when we start looking at working in the vets and working in the medical system relating to the going out to war, any of those types of things, there's value in having really emergency need for massage therapy, but it's going to be a different training for a massage therapist to look at emergency response type training for massage therapy. But we're not there yet.
And it's a long cry from what the people going to spas are looking for.
Absolutely. I mean, but that referring all the way back to...
"Oh, I was just in a car accident. I got to go to the spa. I got to get a massage." I live for the day that is actually what goes through people's minds. It's like, "I just fell off a roof. I need to go get a massage." That'll be a fun day.
I've had people who have done
Science.
that. They think about Nathan before they think of their doctor. And I'm like, wait, no, you have to go to the ER, go get checked out, make sure nothing's broken. There was one great, really deluded individual who I worked on, who I was talking to, and I talked about bizarre information that I know. Before they had the X-ray system, they actually used tuning forks. And the vibration of a tuning fork on a broken bone is supposed to be able to vibrate the area and give you a fairly accurate idea of where that break is if you're skilled with it. I'm not skilled with it, but I knew that information. I'll share bizarre information with people. And so, yeah, a guy, what did he fall from? He fell from something, and he came in, he's like, Nathan, yeah, I want my massage, but I fell on my arm, and I'm not sure if it's broken. Could you use a tuning fork on that?
I think it might be broken.
No, I cannot. I am not going to diagnose your arm with a tuning fork. I'm sorry, just not going to happen. Because we have
with a massage license.
Yeah, with my massage license. No, just no. Every shade of no. And he understood. He actually said, well, I still am wondering. It was like a week after he had fallen, and he still hadn't gone to see the doctor. He asked me just to work on his neck and shoulders, and it was his elbow that he was concerned about. And so I did an extended intake interview to feel comfortable that I could work on his neck and shoulders, and got some relief in his neck and shoulders, sent him to the ER. His elbow was not broken. He had a severe sprain, but I mean, it's one of those things where you say, you have to make sure that you're standing in your scope of practice to feel safe with what you're doing. But you also need to know that people are going to challenge you on your standards.
Yep.
They're going to do something and you're going to go, that doesn't feel right. And if you don't stand up for yourself, no one else will. I've talked
Maybe
about,
Nathan will.
yeah, if I hear about the case. I love being able to work nationwide and kind of connect with massage therapists all over the country, because not only am I talking to massage therapists who have different dynamics, who have different experiences, and have different training, because nationwide there's not a standard curriculum. Even though we have the entry-level analysis project, which is a curriculum development to really kind of succinct what a massage therapist should know when they're going to massage school, that's not being used across the nation. And different terminology and all of that. And so when I am able to talk to a person and kind of draw them to their ethical roots, sometimes there just wasn't a connection to why they were told to do something. They're just doing it.
Yeah.
And they feel icky about it, but they're still just doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So being conscious of why you're doing what you're doing is really important.
It comes a lot, something you just said, it comes back to scope of practice so often, not having people transfer a doctor relationship onto you, saying, here in Washington, scope of practice is manipulation of the soft tissues of the body. If I'm doing anything outside of that, it's not my license that's covering that. The most common thing for me is I like doing Reiki. And I think that Reiki is a wonderful thing to add to your sessions. But that's not covered by my scope of practice. Good news is that's not covered by any scope of practice. So you're not going outside of the scope of practice. That's a modality you can add to a massage practice, but that's not something that's given to you by your license. But manipulation of the soft tissue is. If somebody comes in and they just fell off a roof, is what I'm going to say your client fell off of. Do an intake, do an assessment, see if you are going to injure them further, injure the soft tissues of their body further. But what's most important is injure something that you're unaware of. You know, as massage therapists, we are not trained to find a broken bone or a broken rib, or if a rib might puncture a lung, or if, I mean, there are so many things that can happen during an accident. Yeah, we can work on the soft tissue, and we might not be hurting the soft tissue, but what in our client can be hurt is something that we don't know about. And that's something to be aware of, is that your client is going to come in with things that you can affect that you don't know about, that your education did not train you on. And again, you know, going back to my theme of strong intake, just kind of like what you did with your friend that fell and sprained his elbow. You did a good intake on the injury. How did you fall? How hard did you fall? Where did you fall from? How did you land? What hurts? What movement hurts? And you determined that the injury was isolated to a certain part of his body, meaning that your scope of practice work on soft tissue elsewhere was okay. That's absolutely fine. That's great, but that only happens through an intake. If somebody like your dad comes in, doesn't tell you that they were just in a car accident, you were working on the soft tissues of the body of that person, that had something occur that you didn't know about, and what ended up happening, you made them hurt more. And that's what's going to happen if you work on a client that has something has happened to them that you're unaware of, or they have a condition that you're unaware of. It means that your massage that would normally be absolutely fine, and then you have no intent of hurting, and you're working within your scope of practice, can still be harmful if you're not aware of what's going on with them.
Well, and I find it interesting that in the first category, your liability is at stake. Mm-hmm. If you're told full information and your acts are inappropriate, then that falls under your professional liability. That's where you are doing something wrong with the information that was given. Now, the second one, if you're uninformed and you accidentally injure someone with the things that you're doing, you know, it may go to your liability, but it's not going to go anywhere because you don't know about it. You can't make you can't make an informed decision about how to treat someone without them explaining things to you. Now, even if you have full knowledge, if you're a case that I heard about, the client passed away, and he had a blood clot, and the massage therapist worked on it, and the claim is definitely a challenge, because if the massage therapist knew about it and was informed and was told by a doctor, or was told by a chiropractor, or was told by some other medical professional, this is what to do, now we've got multiple levels of liability. You've got multiple aspects of concern, and you have multiple assessments that are being taken care of that may or may not have given you a full understanding of what to do.
Yeah.
These are the important pieces where, when you're operating within your safe scope of practice, you're constantly doing assessment. And it's not just you assess at the beginning and then you're done and you're doing executing, because at any point, if you're doing the massage and the condition changes, you need to be conscious of it. And that may be the point where you say, you know what, I think we need to stop, and being willing to stop.
Mm-hmm. Actually had that happen today.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I had a client come in, and we were scheduled for a 90-minute, and we started working. And during the assessment, he's been having back pain associated with just kind of age and walking and not maintaining for his entire life. And as we were working, the pain was getting a little worse, and I was working on a few different areas, and I was like, is this hurting more or less? And finally he said, well, the first few sessions we did when you worked on these areas, I felt a lot better, and the last few times that you worked on these areas, I felt worse. And I immediately was just like, all right, we need to investigate this. We are no longer working on this area. We've already done this area for the day, so we're just going to do a 60-minute today, and we'll get you off the table until we can figure out what's going on. Had I had that information at the beginning of every single time that we've worked on these areas, I've hurt for a few days afterwards, that would be new information that I would have probably structured my session differently. Now that I do have that, now I get to go home, research, and come up with a new treatment plan for this client. But in the middle of the session, I noticed that there was a change in body behavior. I questioned my client about it, and that's where the information finally came out. Yeah, the last 2 times that we've worked, on these structures, I've had pain for 3 days afterwards. Ding, ding. Changes the assessment.
Plan. Yeah.
What was that?
I love that you brought up treatment plan.
Yeah.
Because this isn't just this session type topic. It's also, hey, you know what? Let's work on you today. Let's see how you feel. Next time you come in, that didn't help. Do I change my treatment plan or do I refer them out? If you change your plan and then they go through and they still didn't get an improvement or they didn't get a change, then you're at a point where you're like, you know what? I have to refer you out. If I've tried the techniques and tools that I have, I need to make sure that you're safe because, and I've had people who, they've come in for a massage, you work on them, and their result doesn't make sense.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so at that point, I'm like, you know what? You need to go see chiropractor, medical doctor, go get an x-ray, go someplace else because there's something more here. Had a client who came in, great client, really liked her. She came in and she said, okay, well, I've got this tightness and this pain right behind my knee. It kind of feels like a cramp. And I had her pointed out and I said, okay, well, is there anything that you can do to stretch it out? And she's like, no, I've been trying to stretch it and it hasn't really stretched. Well, my heart rate starts going up because those are assessment tools or diagnostic understanding where we can say, okay, you know what? This could possibly be something with the vascular system. This could be a blood clot. So I told her, I'm sorry, I can't work on you today. I need you to go see your doctor and confirm that this is muscular and not vascular. It's not a circulatory system condition. And she's like, well, what could it be? I said, I can't tell you. I don't know. But my concern is that it is something in your blood flow and it's causing a backup and there's other problems. So as soon as you can. She didn't. She didn't come back.
Yeah.
She didn't come
back. That's fine.
And I was concerned about her several months later. And so I looked up her file and she'd come back to another massage therapist later after she had been assessed, hadn't come back to me. And I didn't know. I kind of gave her a call to check in on her and say, hey, just hoping everything went well with that. Hope you're having a great day. Talk to you later. Just to refer. And even if it was nothing, even if she's like, well, he doesn't know anything about blood clots because the doctor said it wasn't. Okay, I'm fine with that. I didn't hurt her more because of something that it possibly could have been.
Always work within the training you have and the experience you have. If something makes you uncomfortable or you go into an unknown, that's where you don't have the experience or the training for the situation you're in. Regardless if it's, blood clot or pain or something like that, if it's not something that you have experience in, you need to go get the experience. You need to go get the training. There's nothing wrong with turning a client away for something that you don't know. That's your obligation as a therapist. If you don't know what's going on, because I see it a lot where somebody will come in and say, oh, I've got this pain. And someone's like, oh, okay, I'll do massage. And they do their cookie cutter massage on them that they do on everyone because they don't care what issue their client has. They're just doing massage. And that's how they view it. We're just doing massage. that's how a lot of the public views it as well. It's just massage. And, you know, the more that we understand about the effects that human touch has on our body, on our psychology, on the mind-body connection, the more we understand that this isn't just a massage. This is something that can affect, you know, multiple aspects of your life, not just physically, but also emotionally and psychologically. So if something happens in any of those realms that you don't understand, you don't know about, or you don't have training in, that's why massage therapy in most states require continuing education. It requires us to not just go through basic school and then use that tiny bit of knowledge that we get in school for the rest of our career. It says, here's a tiny bit of knowledge to get started. Now go get training. And that's where we get to choose focuses. That's where we get to choose what direction we'd like to go into. And that's where we get to start specializing. And if someone comes into you for something that you aren't trained in, but it's still a massage issue, that's where you network. That's where you refer to a therapist who you know has training in this, you know, area. And that is the best reason to turn a client away, in my opinion, because they need help. Massage will help. You can't do it, so you turn them away to go get massage. Like, if you're going to turn a client away, referring them to go get massage is the best thing. That's the best reason to turn someone away, because it means that they can still benefit from massage. They're not giving up on massage. They're still looking at massage as a way to help their health, and you are helping them find that. You know, that's a lot different than turning away somebody because they're high and they just don't understand what you're trying to do with them. Those people just don't know what massage can do for them. If someone's coming in to see you and they want help, they want wellness, and you don't know how to give it to them, their specific issue, refer them to someone who can. That's the best thing you can do for the industry.
And how you turn them away is life-altering. Because if you educate them about why you're turning them away and give them the opportunity to understand that there's a benefit that can be had, but we need you to make sure that this is the case, these are the conditions, and give them a very positive experience, when they come back, they're going to want to come back to an educated massage therapist, aka hopefully you. And then the second piece is, even if they don't want to come back to you, they'll want to go to another massage therapist.
Yeah.
If
that
you
perception,
scream at them and berate them and are angry and show your stupidity to them, then they'll go, whoa, massage therapists are all crazy. Why would I want to go see that profession again?
And then there's a third one, which is you don't turn them away, you work on them, they have a horrible experience and never go get another massage again.
Yeah.
You know, that's another thing. If you are turning a client away because they will have a bad experience on your table based on the condition of whatever reason is why you're turning them away, know that if you did the massage on them, their perception of massage is that massage doesn't work. Massage makes you feel worse. I'm never doing that again. And as it, you know, that's not good for any of us.
Nope. No, I actually just received a call from a past employer that I had, from a client that the office forgot to bill a year and a half ago. And so when they called her up, they said, you know what, we're so sorry. We've noticed that you had a massage on this date, and here's the experience. And the client's response was, oh, I really didn't like that massage, and I'm surprised that you're charging me for it, and all of these pieces. And I kind of went, wait a second. First of all, we're a year and a half away from when it happened. So how does she still remember that session? It must have been very bad. And if that's the case, I work very hard to make sure that communication is a major part of my session with a client. Why wasn't it brought up or answered? Because I always am very concise about, okay, so let me know if it's too much. Let's change this up. What is it that you're looking for this session today? If you're looking for relaxation, let's give you the best relaxation. Are there any areas that you want avoided, including the neck, the head, the face, any places that you don't want me to work, your feet, your hands, I'm going to keep you draped or covered for any areas that I'm not currently working on. If at any time you feel like you want the drapes tighter or looser, let me know, and we can make sure to adjust that for your comfort.
Mm-hmm.
But even with all of that, sometimes you can't fix them all. You can't create communication if someone doesn't want to communicate.
Yeah.
And I guess the perfect example, I've got several friends who have gotten divorced over the last several years, and that's part of that point of communication where they've beat it into the ground in a relationship where they haven't had that strength of communication. And that's the piece that makes a couple stronger, is when they can communicate when they're uncomfortable as well as when they can communicate when they're comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It's understanding and listening that goes to not only a healthy relationship for a partner, but also a healthy relationship for a client and therapist.
Absolutely.
You brought up transference a while ago about transferring that relationship onto the therapist, but I have to bring up countertransference.
Absolutely.
Because if we don't get both sides, we're negating our own responsibility to it.
We only have 7 minutes left. Are you sure you want to get into this?
No, but I got to say something, because, as a massage therapist, you're going to have good experiences with your clients, and you're going to have clients who think you are just amazing because you touch people the way you like to be touched. Most massage therapists are trained to give the massage that they want to receive.
Mm-hmm.
And a good massage therapist goes past that and starts figuring out what the client wants and can work with that. And once you're at that point and you start getting these positive affirmations about, oh, you're so good, you're so great, I'm sorry, your head gets a little bit more inflated. You start really feeling connected to this concept of I am good, and I have helped people with these problems. And then you get a client who comes in and starts treating you with transference as a medical provider, as a doctor. And then it's easier for a person to fall into that relationship perception of, well, I am their healthcare provider.
And that's where that the evolution of the industry is so shady right now. Because what we do provide is we do provide wellness. We do provide physiological change to the body, to the soft tissues. We do provide a connection between the mind and the body, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. We do provide all that in Washington, under a therapeutic license from the Department of Health.
Yep.
That does not make you a doctor. That's the thing, is that I love when my clients come in and say, Adam, you're amazing. You've changed my life. You make me feel better. You're a miracle worker. All those things that every therapist loves hearing. But what am I doing? And this is where, again, assessment is so important. Soap noting is so important. Is you say, what did I work on last time? I worked on these issues. Are these issues within my scope of practice? Yes, they are. Should you feel good about helping somebody with issues within your scope of practice? Absolutely. If they start asking you questions outside your scope of practice, that's where countertransference comes in, because they're now asking you as something that your profession is not. And if you start responding to them because you watched a YouTube video on something, or you have, commonplace knowledge of something that is not covered by your scope of practice, now you're acting as a professional that you are not. You are not licensed as, you don't have the training for, you don't have the experience of, and you don't have the scope of practice that encompasses. And that's where countertransference can get so dangerous. It's great. It is great to feel good about the work that you do. And it is great to act with confidence in the work that you do and to bring change about in the clients. That's all great and dandy. They're going to start treating you as healthcare when you start doing that. That doesn't mean we aren't healthcare. We are still healthcare on so many levels, but we are not doctors. We are manual we do manual manipulations to soft tissues of the body. That's what the profession is.
So that argument also goes down to the difference between healthcare and wellness care.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard many people say that massage therapists are wellness care and not healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
I always argue this line because in some cases you're helping someone recover as a healthcare provider, and in other times you're working as a wellness provider by maintaining their condition of health to manage a healthy condition instead of to help them recover from an injury.
Well, and this just comes down to terminology, because wellness is a buzzword right now. Everybody wants wellness. And it's because people are getting fed up with the healthcare system in the country. And so wellness makes it sound more, but bottom line, if you're keeping somebody healthy, you're working on their wellness.
Yeah.
If you're working on somebody's wellness, you're keeping them healthy, right? Like I go back to my status here in Washington of I have a license from the Department of Health, right? That means if I'm working on somebody for a wellness purpose, meaning I am doing short-term, long-term planning, treatment plans, I'm doing SOAP note charting, and I'm getting them on a frequency to see a long-term change in them that we determine what we're trying to do. I am now their wellness provider. You know, am I their healthcare provider? That depends on terminology, right? Because yeah, you are. You in Washington at least, Department of Health, licensed from the Department of Health. And I'm working on an organ of the body, the muscles of the body, the skin of the body. But it's not perceived that way yet, right? Generally, culturally, people aren't going and getting a massage to check up on their treatment plan and stay to it. That's what I've tried to create in my own practice, is much more of a wellness-oriented practice. But the average Joe out there, the majority of people going out there, they just want to feel good. They're not being educated by their therapist, and they're not being educated by society on what massage actually does to the body.
Well, and how it can do it. I think all of this really comes down to making sure that your head is on straight when you're seeing any client during a health intake period and all the way throughout the treatment, because if you can consciously be aware of their condition and the appropriateness / inappropriateness of you to work on them in that location at that time with that technique, then you're going to be healthier and safer for that client, which means that you're not thinking about the grocery list, you're not thinking about what's going on afterwards, you're not thinking about what happened last night or what's going on with your friends or your buddies or what's going on across the country. You're in that session with that client. The one thing that I wanted to end with is the very first word in this one, and that is exercise the right. So exercise means that you're doing it. Don't think about, well, maybe I really shouldn't work on this person, or maybe I really shouldn't do that work. No, change your treatment plan, change your actions, because this is all about your client's safety. This is all about the appropriateness of being able to work on that person at that point for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's that important. Give anything, break anything. This really does say you care about your clients, to say, I can't work on you. I loved in student clinics when I was running massage therapy school clinics to have a student have to tell their client, I'm sorry, I cannot work on you today because it's so much easier as a student in massage school to do that when you're not getting paid and realizing you're not making that money.
It's really hard to give up money. When a client comes in, they booked out your time, they showed up, they've done nothing wrong, and you cancel on them at the time of the appointment. It's one of the hardest things to do because it's your livelihood. But this is where you, as a licensed professional, need to step up and say, my first priority is to my client. And they're going to respect you more for that, and they'll come back and see you when it's appropriate. But if they know that you have their health as top priority, That's what makes you professional. That's what makes them want to come back and see you more.
That doesn't mean they're going to be happy, though.
No, they're probably going to be pissed.
Yeah, I mean,
who is not going to be happy? I mean, who's going to be happy if they're told, "I'm sorry, you can't have your massage today"?
I love the example of someone who has had cancer, and the massage therapist isn't trained on oncology, and the policies for the spa say, no, you cannot work on them if you don't have oncology training. Or pregnancy, they're pregnant and they come in and they're just tired and exhausted, and they don't have a massage therapist who's trained in pregnancy.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, any of these pathologies that really should be weeded out in the interview process beforehand to say, hey, here are the standard treatments. Is there any conditions you need to disclose, such as oncology, you have cancer, or have pregnant, or are pregnant, any of these things, so that we can make sure to get you to the right massage therapist.
You were in a car accident today.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just being able to be out there and communicate. And I think if we can get receptionists and front desk staff to be conscious, that will reduce a lot of this strain. It's that important to kind of connect with each person on a daily basis to make sure that the session goes right to where it needs to be. So, Adam, thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate your time and your skill and your happiness to be chilling with me for an hour here. It's always a joy.
Nathan.
It was nice to meet you, Adam. Thank you, Nathan. The hour has flown by. We hope you've enjoyed this discussion with Ethics Outside the Box. As you've seen, Nathan uses many second-hand stories of ethical situations. If you'd like to share your story, or you have any questions, feel free to contact him and Nathan at educatedtouch.com. If you'd like to register for next week's live webinar, go to shop.educatedtouch.com. Under live webinars, you will see all upcoming webinars. If you have just watched this video and would like continuing education for home study, you can go to shop.educatedtouch.com under the home study options with the date or episode number to receive your exam. If you would please like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, we will keep you up to date on new videos. If you'd like to attend one of our live courses, you can find upcoming scheduled events at www.educatedtouch.com. Thank you for joining us today. Be well and have an ethical day.